What is the definition of an addiction? Well, according to myclevelandclinic.org, an addiction is a chronic or lifelong condition that involves compulsive seeking and taking of a substance or performing an activity despite negative or harmful consequences. When we hear the word addiction, we normally think of things like alcohol or cigarettes or other chemical dependence, or even gambling. But what we don't tend to think of is a bunch of people playing Super Smash Bros. In real life or a bunch of Hello Kitty blankets and tissues. Yeah, so another surge of consumption craze has spread across YouTube again, and apparently the newest craze is Hello Kitty themed items and house decoratives. People are supposedly waiting in obnoxiously long lines for these items, they're stashing them around the stores for later, and yes, they're even fighting and pushing other people around for them. Sounds awfully familiar. Now, I won't bore you with the details or too many clips on the events happening because frankly there's a lot of other people you can watch that goes over the drama in detail, but that's not the point of this video. This kind of behavior is really nothing new. There were always items that you had that people would wait in long lines for or beat each other up for, and overall just this very unnatural behavior for materialistic items. But that would normally happen around holidays like Black Friday when everything is on sale, so people are running to the stores to get things cheap, or even seasonal items like Christmas or Halloween themed items that you'll never see for a whole nother year. But nowadays it seems like people are acting this way for certain items that really have no reason of getting so big and popular out of nowhere. And maybe it's just because social media has a tendency to amplify certain events, but having a bunch of items fly off the shelves and businesses making more money than they ever have with certain products all of a sudden, it seems like there's something going on. Because Hello Kitty was always a popular item, and just Sanrio in general. It's all a part of that kawaii Japan aesthetic that people love going crazy over. So why is it that we're just seeing this super big surgence of people who really want these products? From Beanie Babies to Visco cups to Stanley cups to Erewhon to Crumbles, there's a new craze like every week. And these people get very bored of these items very quickly. And in a lot of our minds, and what I see a lot of people saying on the internet is, well, these people are just so stupid for fighting over a bunch of blankets in stores and running to get every new trend that they see. People will comment things like, why do we keep having these, trends where people go crazy for every week? Like, when is it going to end? And that's completely understandable reasoning, of course. But I think we might need to look at this in a bit of a bigger picture than individual circumstances like we are. I think that a lot of these people might actually have an addiction. And it's not an addiction to a bunch of Sanrio plushes, it's not an addiction to a bunch of oversized cups, but I think it's an addiction to shopping. Now, I know this is kind of a bold statement, and obviously I cannot clinically diagnose anybody with any type of addiction or say that this is genuinely what it is, but when you read into it a little bit more and you compare the actions of these super shoppers to our normal addictions that you hear about every day, it's checking a lot of boxes. So once again, briefly put, an addiction is an uncontrollable urge or feeling to partake in a certain activity or a certain substance, regardless of the consequences. And when you put that information into perspective of people who shop incessantly, it starts to make a little more sense. And being addicted to shopping is nothing new, just for the record. I know I put that in my title, or I word that in my title in some type of way. I did that because I think it sounded good, but essentially it's not new. It's not like people are just getting addicted to shopping. This was obviously always something that you could get addicted to and that people were already addicted to. But I think all of these micro trends that we're seeing today is a result of these possible addictions that these people might have. Again, this is theoretical. I can't say that for sure that they do. But the fact that these people don't stick to one product, right, one trend after they've fulfilled their desire to get that product shows that the product was never the real goal. So a lot of these people, I feel, don't really care about the item itself, whatever it is. They just want to shop. Like, they're addicted to the act and behavior of shopping itself. And all social media and microtrends are doing is showcasing the next big thing to these people that have a problem with shopping. So it shows them the next thing they can go splurge their money on. Now, I'm not blaming social media for this. Obviously, it's a contributor, but there's a difference between something contributing to a bigger problem and blaming it entirely. Some of y'all need to understand that. I'm not blaming social media entirely. It's not social media's fault. However, with the ease of information and the access to online shopping, which I'm going to get to in a second, that makes it a whole lot easier for people who might have an addiction to shopping to scope out their next target. Because it's all about that dopamine rush, just like any other addiction. Seeing a lot of other people hype a certain product up will eventually hype you up, and then you going out to buy it will give you that dopamine that you were looking for. Just as people who are addicted to alcohol may find it really difficult to go a night without drinking, or people who are addicted to cigarettes find it really difficult not to open up a fresh pack, it is physically difficult for a lot of these people not to go into a store and buy a bunch of stuff they don't need. Or what about online hauls? People who get huge packages of small knickknacks that they'll probably only use once or twice, and it'll be stuffed in the back of their closet for the rest of their life. Shopping online, it's a whole lot easier to satiate that desire to shop because everything's right there. All you gotta do is open your phone, go to TikTok, and you're already being advertised a bunch of different products. Then all you have to do is click into it, press buy, and there it is. It's getting shipped to your door in a few days. And with your card information already on file, it makes that step that much easier. I just feel like it goes a little bit beyond just people wanting to hop on trends every time they come about. I guess obviously a lot of people do just do it for the trends because then they can go on social media and brag about how they have the product everybody's crazy for. But I feel like many others might just have a problem with shopping and a bad addiction to it, and they simply can't control the urge not to buy. And what makes this situation particularly difficult and different from other addictions is that shopping is actually a necessity. When you think of the common addictions that people talk about, one thing they all have in common is that you don't need them. And I know that's Captain Obvious, but you don't need alcohol. You know, people go their whole life without it and they're just fine. You don't need to buy cigarettes. You don't need to go gamble and spend a bunch of money to try and make some back. Or what about being addicted to adult content? That's another one I haven't addressed. Being addicted to the content or participating in it yourself. You don't need to watch that type of content. You don't need to participate in the type of activity. Once again, there are plenty of people who go without it. You know, they abstain for whatever reasons, health issues or religious reasons, whatever the reasons may be. The point is you don't have to do these things. For most addictions, they aren't things that you must partake in order to survive in life. And they really serve no purpose except for giving temporary pleasure to human beings. That's their only purpose. A lot of them arguably are not good for your health. And not to be that person of dare kids, remember, don't do drugs. I don't know what else you want me to tell you. This is common knowledge at this point. It's bad for you. A lot of them are very bad for you. Like, you know what you're getting yourself into when you partake in these certain activities or, you know, drugs or whatever it is. A lot of people call these things vices or just little things here and there that you do to make life a little bit easier and a little bit more tolerable. But ironically, if you let it get out of hand, it'll actually destroy your life. But shopping is a little bit different from those behaviors because you have to shop. Everyone has to shop because we are all consumers. And I want to clarify something really quickly about being a consumer, because we hear this phrase a lot, especially nowadays when people talk about overconsumption. I hear it all the time when, you know, YouTubers will talk about overconsumption and all of this shopping going on. And because of all this talk about it, I feel like it has a bit more of a negative connotation in that people don't really seem to like the word or they use it in a negative light. I just want to say there's nothing wrong with being a consumer. On just a literal, biological, and a business level, that is what you are. Unless you have your own farm to grow your own food and eat, you have no choice but to go to a grocery store or somebody else in order to get food. Unless you have your own fabric and know how to sew your own clothes, you have to go and get yourself some clothes from stores. Being a consumer is just being someone who goes to other people in order to get goods and services because we can't make them ourselves. All of us have to do that, even the big 1% billionaires, because all of us need to get things that we need to survive that we can't create ourselves. So there's nothing wrong with being a consumer, in moderation, of course. But the point is to say that if we all have to be consumers, that makes it a lot more difficult for people who may have a shopping addiction to get over it, because they have to do the behavior that we want them to stop doing. Because with many other addictions, like alcohol, for example, to get over it, you just stop, or you slow down on doing it as much. And of course, it's not as easy as I'm saying, I'll just stop drinking. Like, addictions are hard. They strip away all rationality and completely control your life. But I'm saying the steps to slowly get over an addiction is to do it less or just stop doing it completely, depending on how bad your addiction level is. But if we all have to shop, that isn't much of an option for people who might be addicted to spending money. So then the solution there would have to be trying to prioritize the way you spend your money and recognizing the difference between need and wants. And I feel like this is where the biggest issue lies, because a lot of people are not good at differentiating a need between a want, and those lines kind of get blurred, or their brain justifies their excessive shopping because they need to shop. So just learning not to compromise what you actually need versus just what gives you pleasure. and being able to control those impulses and see the difference. A lack of discipline and impulse control are really a problem with all addictions. But I truly believe a lot of these people are just having a serious issue with their control of shopping, and social media is amplifying the urge to want to do it because of all these new trends. Because there's kind of a culture online that kind of reinforces shopping and getting a bunch of things that you don't need, not just with like hauls and, buying 6 cookies every week or something like that, but just like the capitalism really puffed off tonight ladies trend type of thing, where it's like, I'm struggling to pay my bills and I can't afford groceries, but I'm just gonna buy little things to make me happy because, YOLO or something along those lines. Especially amongst the middle class, I see that there's a lot of justification for overspending, even though these are the same people complaining about an economic crisis and capitalism is failing us and I'm struggling to pay my bills, but you can still afford to go get a 6-pack of really overpriced cookies. So with all of this, people who may have an issue with shopping, it makes it that much more difficult to fight that urge, especially like I said, when the act is something that they have to do no matter what. Do you need clothing? Yes, you do. Do you need $700 worth of Shein clothes every other week? No, not really. Do you need a drinking cup? Arguably, yes. And I say arguably because there are things you can argue against not needing it. But for the sake of our conversation, yes, you need something to drink out of so you're not cupping your hand every time you want to drink water or something. Assuming you don't buy water bottles or something like that, just straight from your kitchen sink. But do you need 20 of the same type of cup in different colors to put on your wall as an aesthetic mirage? No. So I think it's a big issue with choosing what you need versus what you want and justifying all of the excessive shopping behaviors because you need to buy things. And just to make it clear, I'm not trying to make excuses for these people or condone the overconsumption that's going on, because yes, addictions are hard. No matter what type of addiction it is really, really difficult. I literally just had a class in my health class. We had a guest speaker come in and she explained her addiction with so many different things: self-harm, cigarettes, alcohol, medicine, pills. She really did it all. And it made me realize just how difficult an addiction is for somebody who's never had one before. So yes, as difficult as it is, I understand that. There are still steps you can take to get over it or get help or get through it, because millions of people have done it. So it's not like this is some incurable disease. It is very curable and you can get help, or some people have the self-discipline to do it on their own. Either is perfectly fine. So I'm not trying to take the responsibility and accountability from these people. But I've just been thinking about all the people in all the comments who say stuff like, why does this stuff keep happening? Why does it never end as far as trends and overconsumption? And it's why do people go out to get more alcohol when they don't need it? Why do people go out to get a bunch of cigarettes when they don't need? I genuinely believe these people are addicted. And we tend to make fun of these individuals for acting a bit childish. But I think if we stop looking at this individually as if this trend, and look at it as a whole of just the entirety of constantly jumping from trend to trend, and look at it from the standpoint of an actual possible addiction, things start to make a little bit more sense. And that maybe this is a serious issue that we need to be addressing as if it was an addiction to alcohol, an addiction to cigarettes, rather than looking at it as individual circumstances of overconsumption. But that's just my theory on everything. What do you guys think, and what could possibly be the cause of so many of these jumping back and forth between trends? Let me know in the comments below. But as far as today, that's all I have for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.